All right. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name is Mia, and you're watching Mia's Slumber Party. Okay, so I recently watched the newest Amazon original, The Idea of You, and let me tell you, there is just a lot of things going through my mind. Um, different things I've noticed in the movie, little plot points, parts that were confusing to me, questions that I had, and yeah. And so I wanted to get into, that, and I wanted to talk about the movie today because it just came out, and I've watched it once and twice now. I just finished my second watch literally like 10 minutes ago. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so right off the bat, I just wanted to point out the fact that there's still no video on this recording, and that is because for some reason my camera stops recording after like 30 minutes, and so I don't know how to fix that, but I'm gonna look into it, either that or get a new camera or something. But yeah, okay, so The Idea of You. The Idea of You is a movie that came out Amazon Prime 2024. And honestly, going into it, I've heard so many great things about it. I went into the movie with an open mind, not really anticipating to really like it that much, but also not anticipating to hate it, just more like, like a cool movie that I get to watch. It wasn't like a movie that I was like excited to watch. It was just like, okay, like that's gonna be on my list to watch. And what actually changed my mind is actually watching another Amazon original, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I enjoyed that movie. Sure, it has the ups and downs and things that need to be changed in it, but I thought it was a pretty good movie. Certainly not like the world of Oscar winners, but it was a pretty good movie that I'd watch again. And with this movie, it actually made me be excited to watch this movie. And then I forgot my golden rule when I was starting to watch The Idea of You, which is Amazon will give you like everything you want, but only at 50%. And you can say my hopes were high after Red, White, and Royal Blue. But when I watched this movie, it just reminded me that Amazon just, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, they always will give you hints and pieces of what you want, but not the full shabam. And yeah, that definitely was the case with this movie. Right off the bat, I just want to say it kind of reminded me, if you can imagine this, but it kind of reminded me of A Star is Born and Bohemian Rhapsody in its own little ways. Not because they're both these like rock star, movie musicals, if you call it that. More just in like, it felt like the creators watched those movies and then they were like, okay, like let's try to add those elements into our movie, but we have 30% of the budget those movies had, so how can we do this? And that's not a bad thing, but it's just kind of like the vibes it gave me. Like every concert scene, it was very much Bohemian Rhapsody-esque. Of course, they couldn't do like the montage like Bohemian Rhapsody, but it had a very similar vibe to it, especially with like the words flying by. Bohemian Rhapsody did that a few times, and it was very much trying to capture like the feeling of being in like a concert in real time, and like just that feeling of bouncing at a concert while you're listening to the music that's being performed with you, and just having a good time. Even though it's kind of shot in a way that was like, it looked like it was being filmed on a phone in a sense, it still felt more authentic to what they were going for, I think, in the way that it's not more like a concert where you're filming the whole thing just because, it's the modern age, but it felt more like people who were filming the concert but still having like a sense of, like presence and just feeling connected to the actual concert. So I thought that was good. And then A Star Is Born, I thought it was very similar in ways that they filmed that as well. Like in The Star Is Born, I don't know if they did the same for this movie, but I know in A Star Is Born, all the musical performance scenes were filmed live, so you could get the authentic feeling of the vocals and feeling like you're in the concert. Having the audience cheer and stuff like that to be more authentic. And I enjoyed that. And it felt like instead of having just like these stationary cameras that were just filming the concert, they tried to take it to that Star Is Born level and have it feel more realistic. Again, I don't know if they were filming the actual songs live, but it felt a lot more authentic, almost like you are watching a recording of the concert after you've already experienced it, like like watching Beyonce's Homecoming, in the sense that it's like it feels more like put together and filmed like that versus like just a bunch of random people listening to artists in a very static setting. So I like that. Another thing that made me really think about A Star Is Born as well is the fact that they tried to bring things that we know in our day-to-day modern lives, and bring those same things to the characters so that we can connect to them more. Like, for an instance, in A Star Is Born, they had Lady Gaga's character, whose name is Ali, perform on SNL, and then they had the person hosting that night introduce them and all that, and then in The Idea of You, they had the main character, or secondary main character, hold on one second. Hello? Okay. They had Hayes, instead of, or just like A Star Is Born, they had Hayes perform at towards the end of the movie on the Graham Norton show. So like, for me, I felt like when it came to that specific scene, I felt like Jimmy Fallon probably would have been better. Like, I understand that Hayes is British, but also like, like the fact that Solin is just always on, that's Anne Hathaway's character, Solin. The fact that she just regularly watches the Graham Norton show, like, I mean, yeah, I watch clips of it every now and then when I see somebody that I'm interested in watching be interviewed, be on that show. But I feel like as an American, most Americans would tune into one of the late night shows we're familiar with, all the Jimmys, Trevor, yeah, all the Jimmys, like all the late night shows that we're used to watching. So I was like, I get that he's British, but also like, Jimmy Fallon would probably have him on the show because Jimmy Fallon has literally everybody on his show. So, like, it would be weird if he was on that show, and it would probably make a little bit more sense for Solin's character to stay with watching an American show, just because, like, I don't know how often Graham Norton shows are, pretty streamed in America as much. like you're more likely to come into contact with one of the Jimmys before Graham Norton's show, unless you're like on YouTube or something. That's the way I feel. So I was like, I don't know, but whatever. It still works anyways. I'm not gonna get into like the actual, play by play and what happened in the movie per se, because there's other people to do that. Marshall Stannis is this amazing YouTuber I watch. I think he's completely underrated, but that's another video. I watched his video talking about the idea of you, and if you'd like to watch that and hear his thoughts, his opinions, I'll put a link to that in the description for YouTube, because yeah, like I think he's a brilliant mind and well spoken as well, and he also recaps the entire movie as well. So I'm not gonna go through the trouble in doing that, because then this video will be even longer. But instead, I'm just gonna talk about a few points of the movie that I thought was, it stood out and was interesting to me. So here we go. So first of all, I like to talk about their meet cute. Rom-coms, they typically have this thing where they need some crazy, weird turn of events that bring our main two characters together, and so that they can meet up. And usually it's called a meet cute because it's usually sort of cute in a sense of one way or another. This one, I wouldn't say it's cute, but I wouldn't say it's one of the awkward ones either. I would just say it's kind of like embarrassing. Like I would tell people like, hey, this is the time that I met so and so, but I also would be kind of embarrassed and ashamed of how I met them, and be like, like share it with close friends, like share the story with close friends. But other people, I'd be like, oh yeah, I met so and so one time, and that's about all the detail they would get. And so essentially how they meet, which I am gonna recap this part, is Soline's ex-husband was supposed to take their daughter Izzy and her friends to Coachella, which is like, if you've been to Coachella, let me know how it is. But for me, I'm not thinking about like when I think of Coachella, I'm not thinking like, okay, that's a good environment for your teenage daughter. But I also have never been, and I don't know much about it. So maybe there is a good section outside of Yo Gabba Gabba. But yeah, and so he ends up canceling last minute because he has a business trip, and instead he pretty much begs Soline to go on the trip to Coachella in his place. And so she agrees. Great time to hang out with her. Great time for her and her daughter to like bond as well with their friends and be a parent figure and all that. While she's there, her daughter and her friends kind of separate to do their own thing. Again, I grew up with black parents, so that was not it for me, but other people grew up differently. And so before they go to this big meet and greet with this band called Austin Moon, who Izzy used to like, but now she feels like they're overrated and irrelevant. So Lynn's just kind of on her own, wandering around. She goes to use the bathroom after some random lady tells her like the directions and gives her bad directions to the bathroom. And she ends up in this trailer that turns out to be Hayes' trailer, but she didn't know that. She thought it was just a nice indoor bathroom for VIP members. And yeah, it's really weird. She uses the bathroom, she comes out, she thinks he has like this weird like fetish with hearing people pee, and then he explains like, no, like I'm about to perform, this is my trailer. It's weird, it's awkward. And just as she's about to leave, he offers her to stay and have a drink, and then they're interrupted by his I'm assuming like manager or publicist and his different entourage of people and stuff like that. And so she leaves. Again, I thought it was just a weird meet cute, but you know what? You know what? If there's anything or anything I loved about a rom com that you could probably never get wrong for me, it's a meet cute. Like how awkward it is, or how cute it is, or how unserious it is. I'm probably gonna end up loving it no matter what. Like you probably hooked me on that point, because you know, whatever. Meat and potatoes, like I don't really care. A meet cute's a meet cute, and I love to see it anyways. But yeah, next part is like the music. So later on in throughout the night, we see Austin Moon finally perform a performance at the Coachella venue, and they're singing, and it sounds very much like Maroon 5 to me, or like Rexton, but it all their music, and you'll hear different music of theirs play throughout the movie. It all just sounds very basic, bland pop to me. Like it sounds like, yeah, I could hear that on the radio, like a very realistic song in that way, but as far as, you know, like having that moment of wanting to re-listen to it, it's not me. It's not my taste. It's very much like, I like pop music that I can listen to and bob my head to. And this type of music, it doesn't make me want to dance. But it also, like, just, like, I really am focused on the lyrics. And they just don't seem like something I would like to dance to. Or, like, you know, like, they just feel, like, vague and empty. And it's just kind of like, okay, like, this is what you guys wrote. I don't know what the timeline was or the deadline on the music was, but it wasn't just... It didn't make me want to listen to this band. And again, maybe it's because Izzy thinks the band is so 7th grade, and it's supposed to sound dated, but it's like, this movie came out in 2024, and all their hits sound like it's 2012, you know, or something around that time period, like just bland, kind of trashy 2010s pop music that is like just stock pop music. So it wasn't for me, but you know, I'm sure there's a bunch of fangirls who would have loved that if they were a real band. And yeah, I mean, and so there's these different moments where Hayes will write his own music and he'll play his own tune, and I swear at this moment I thought the movie was gonna turn into one of those things where he is like, oh yeah, like everything we make is just boring pop music, and I want to make my own real music. I want to show the world how I feel, because they always do that in movies, and I'm so glad it didn't really take that turn. Because I was getting annoyed if they were gonna do that. Like, I saw that plot line and I was starting to be like, I hope they don't do that, because I hate that, because it happens so often. And then when they finally do come out with their real music that just feels like them, it's usually garbage, unless it's like Keke Palmer Rags, because her song was still a banger to me and nobody could tell me otherwise. But yeah, the music in the Austin Moon's music is just very bland, boring, basic. And I can't have this video without talking about the elephant in the room of how this is pretty much like, I'm pretty sure it was like based off of Harry Styles One Direction, you know, like fanfic. Very like you know, the British quote unquote bad boy of the group dating older women. Very different than like I feel like he's nothing like Harry, but he's a lot closer to Harry than Harden was in After. Because that was a mess, and I wonder what Harry Styles thinks about all these fanfic movies that come out of that are based off of him. and how each version of Harry is extremely different too. And I'm sure they're all very different from him. I mean, just interviews and things like that I've seen of Harry, I feel like Hayes is nowhere near that. But I digress because I don't even know what to think anymore about all these Harry style fan fictions. But like I was saying, the music, even as boring pop and stock it is, it still sounds nothing like One Direction to me. Okay. This is day 2 of the Idea of You episode of the podcast. And yeah. Okay, so tell me why I had absolutely no idea that the whole fuss pot, every time I referred to the band, I called them Austin Moon, which their real name is August Moon. It's literally Austin and Hallie popped into my head. Which I was just talking about how bad, or not how bad, but how the music is the idea of the movie is kind of based off of One Direction, and it's a Harry Styles fanfic, and how the music sounds nothing like One Direction music. But on top of this, I always thought that the band name wasn't good, hence me not being able to actually memorize the actual name, August Moon. So I just felt like they did not eat with that title. Like, they needed to choose something else, because that was just not a good boy band name. Even when Hayes describes, how he got into the band, it's this whole thing of like, well, I auditioned and they decided to put us in that band, and I was in it since I was 14. Isn't that literally like how One Direction got together on X Factor? Like, they auditioned to be solo acts, and then Simon had the idea to put them all together, and they were all really young. It's just like, okay. It's like, the thing about this movie is that it feels like they know what, like, they have an idea what they're going for. And why I like this movie, because it's obvious a fanfic movie, and I'm gonna be real, sometimes I'm not a big fan of these fanfic movies. I'd rather skip them than watch them. But this one felt like it knew what it was, and it took itself somewhat seriously in some aspects, but not so much so that it was like, that it was trying to, like, be Oscar worthy or anything. Like, it took moments to laugh at itself. I think you could definitely see that in Anne Hathaway's character. It took a lot of focus onto her character, and like how, her story, how she developed, and all that, and why, like, a big struggle for her is, oh my gosh, this is crazy, I'm literally old enough to be your mother, or I am a mother of a teenage daughter, and she loved your stuff. And so, it took itself seriously in that spot. But because it took so much, time to focus in on her, and to get her struggles as a more serious focal point of the movie, it completely erases Hayes's entire, like, identity. Like, we literally don't know who this man is, and he's literally, like, just all over this movie, and we're just like, who are you? There's a specific line in the movie where she talks about her ex and how he cheated on her, and it's this very emotional performance from, it's a subtle and emotional performance from Anne Hathaway. And in it, she talks about how, in this conversation, she also talks about how, she asked him who he is. Who is Haynes Campbell? And he goes, please, not the full name. She's like, why not? You don't like that? And he goes, it just doesn't tell us the real story, or the full story. To which I'm over here laughing, because on my second watch, I'm like, well, if that doesn't tell us the full story, who's gonna? Because we don't know you. Like, Like literally, like I know as much as literally the script has told us, but we don't really get to explore who he is, you know? There's this scene later on where she tells her daughter, like, he's a feminist and he's a great guy. And literally, it's like, not once have we ever seen a scene where he talks about his beliefs or he talks about feminism or, you know, the political climate or anything. It's just thrown into the script just so that we can be like, oh, we like this character more. Don't give me a line that's like, oh, like, nobody knows the real me, and then not show us who the real him is. Like, Amazon, please stop joking. um, there's a lot of, like, music in this movie that is reminiscent of other rom-coms that are far superior, far more well-known, more loved than other than this one in this movie. I picked that up a lot. I don't know. I feel like they should have chosen different music because a lot of this music was from very popular pop culture movies with great cult followings. So I feel like a lot of times I would think of those greater movies rather than this one. And I feel like it just needed its own soundtrack because really the only music that was central to it was the August Moon music. There's even a line where Anne Hathaway's talking about how she met one of the artists who she said she was blasting a Fiona Apple album, and she knew instantly that they would be friends. And I didn't like that they didn't even play Fiona Apple in there. I thought there's so many little like Easter eggs and hints that in the movie you're thinking, oh my gosh, like they're gonna call back to that later. And I guess I'll talk about that section now. So literally so many things in the movie that I'm like, okay, like I'm guessing this is gonna happen in the movie. It's never brought up again. So the Fiona Apple one was one. There's a line where Hayes talks about how the same day he auditioned for the band, he auditioned to be Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. And had he gotten the part, he would have chosen that. And he doesn't know what he would have been instead of, you know, a member of this boy band. It's this moment that you really get to see, like, how much not how much, but it's like a seed of, okay, like, he kind of doesn't want to be in this band anymore. He kind of, it's lived its course, and he's kind of, like, mentally beyond that at this point and kind of over it. There's points where he talks about how he didn't learn how to play the guitar until after he joined the band, but all the producers would be like, it's not necessary for you to play instruments. So in other words, he's not a real artist to them. He's just, you know, a boy band. He's just the English guy that little girls can listen to music and dream about, you know. He talks about how I think it was his manager told him that the person from his favorite band was going to show up and wanted to meet him. And let me just say, could they not just write down even a fake name? Like, they literally just said, oh, my favorite person from my favorite band. Like, could y'all not just make up, like, I don't know, like, Brian May from Queen? Like, just give us a name. They literally just said my favorite from favorite. That bothered me. But anyways, and when he shows up to meet that person, it's actually his manager's daughter's birthday party, and he just wanted to take pictures and stuff like, and you know, they wanted to pretty much use him like a party clown, and he realized he was a joke. Both of these things are things I was like, okay, they're gonna make a full comeback. You know, he's gonna really struggle with his persona and being a joke and break away from that, or it's gonna be like this heavy point where he's struggling so hard thinking he's a joke because of all of the things that are coming out about their relationship, and just people saying nasty things, that she's gonna have to pull him back to reality and be like, hey, that's not who you are. Like, you're so much better than that. Or maybe at one point he's like, he's really bringing up the band and says like, I want to quit, I will quit. And she's like, this is something you love, da 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 da, which I think they try to do later on in the movie, because there's a scene where she breaks up with him, and his solution is like, I can break up, I can get out the band, I'm willing to do that, I will do that for you. And instead of it doesn't feel like there was a shred of him that wanted to leave the band. It just felt like, oh, I'm gonna leave the band for a girl. And so I think they just totally failed in that area, when it came to, that part of the movie, and trying to make it seem like, like those are deep aspects of him. Another thing, when he comes to her shop to look for different works by artists, later on they decide to get some food, and she says she's gonna make him a sandwich at her house because they're trying to go for like a nice intimate setting where people aren't harassing him and taking pictures and stuff like that. And when she gets there, she realizes her fridge is broken again, because it does this thing where it repeatedly breaks down, and she has to put things in a cooler and all that. And so her fridge turned off again. And at this point, he is, helping out, making sure that to put the nice food in like a little, a nice box, and then throw out the rest. And this is the moment where we really get the main characters to talk about their past, their futures, or their past and what's happened. So like I said, Anne Hathaway talks about how her ex cheated, and he talks about his family and how he's not close to any of them really. His mom got remarried, and his stepdad he's nice, but he's just I guess annoying to Hayes. And then his dad disappeared from his life, and he decided to come back and decided to build a relationship with him again, but only after he became, wildly famous. And so I'm thinking, okay, so later in this movie, it's going to be a big thing where they meet the parents. They meet I was really expecting the dad, because he has so many problems with him. Maybe she's going to tell him, help him to bond. Maybe he's going to see her relationship with Izzy and think about how strained his relationship with his dad is, and she's going to push him to actually get to know him and talk to him, even though, seeing why he only wanted to talk to him when he's famous. Not like, just not be a deadbeat dad, maybe these are all things that were going to show up. And again, none of this happened again. They, again, a theme with Amazon is they give us hints, and then they never let us have the full picture come together. Another thing that happens that completely backfired and that never came up again, really, is it's also I forgot what it's called, but it's like when an event doesn't continuity error. It's a continuity error that I noticed as well. It's after they meet up, he invites her to come out on tour with them to Europe, and it's this montage of the concerts happening, but then also them two are hanging out and getting to know each other. I guess they're going on like these dates, and so there's this part where they're in a cafe in Paris, specifically saying that because he kisses her and she says, wait, we're in public, and he goes, but it's Paris, and she says, yeah, but there's people around, and he's like, but it's still Paris. which, by the way, I don't know if that made it sound weird, but the kiss was consensual. So I felt like the way I just said it made it sound like it was something really bad. It was a consensual kiss. It just was like, I just wanted to emphasize the fact that he said it was in Paris. And while they're kissing, there's like these little freeze frame moments that the movie plays with a sound effect to make it seem like a camera is taking pictures. So we're like, okay, these pictures are gonna come out soon or something. Fast forward, in the future, they're broken up at this point for the first time, because they've broken up twice in this movie. And literally, like, it comes out that they were dating, and there's all these random pictures that just happen to come out at the same time of them dating. Now, what was the picture that came out? It was them two on the beach. It wasn't them two kissing in the middle of a public space at a cafe. It was them at a beach kissing on the sand. Later on, Daniel comes by and talks about how they bought Izzy this car, which trash move on his end, because their budget, they both agreed, was a certain amount. And Anne Hathaway's like, I literally bought her paint and you bought her a car. We are not fans of Daniel over here, but he literally does this, and then he has the audacity to say, by the way, one of my lawyer friends said that they went to Italy for a little trip and they saw you guys kissing in a cafe. Literally, like, this man cheated on you, and he thinks he can go around saying, like, oh, here's the critique on your life and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. It was disgusting behavior from him. But I bring all this up because, again, we don't get to see the pictures that the person took, but it says that they took the pictures of them at the cafe, 1. 2, on top of this, he says that the lawyers were in Italy, and then she backs it up by saying, yeah, I was in Italy, and she says the city. But I'm over here, like, literally, like, Hayes said you're in Paris, so I'm like, what is the continuity error? Like, are y'all in Italy? Are y'all in Paris? It's not a big thing, but I was like, whenever I find a continuity error, I point it out because it's so rare for me. So I'm like, okay, like, what is this movie doing though? And I didn't even notice it until my second watch, but, you know, I got there eventually. But yeah. And, you know, like, another prime example, they literally made it a point that these pictures are getting taken, and it took them, like, I don't know, 20 minutes for this to be revealed. Like, I just don't understand this movie, because if those pictures were taken, it should have been, like, the next scene, or the day after their whole secret is revealed. It took, like, I don't know, like, a week or two for the story to get out about them two, and it wasn't even the same pictures that we saw being taken. Second of all, if this was real life, I mean, tell me that they would not have been found out about, like, way earlier, like, sooner. I'm literally, like, seeing him escort her to, like, the private jet, and I'm imagining, like, people on, like, Twitter or on Reddit, like, literally taking pictures of them walking to the jet, circling her face and being like, who's this lady, like, art consultant, ? And he, you know, they're getting closer around each other all the time, because this is literally stuff I see all the time about celebrities, like, and you mean to and it doesn't matter if you're known or if you're an unknown person, like, people will find that out. I've seen pictures of, you know, different celebrities lately just going out to eat with a friend, and people are, like, circling it and being like, okay, like, is this a new relationship? Are they dating now? Like, literally. And it's not like this movie was set in the 80s. This movie is set, I'm assuming 2024, 2023, and you mean to tell me, like, literally, y'all mean to tell me that they're just now getting found out? They weren't being careful. They were still walking down the streets, holding hands, kissing each other in public. Like, y'all got to do better than that. Like, help me help you, because I cannot. I can't. But whatever. Anyways. What else did I write? So I wrote, so there's this different moments throughout the movie where Hayes will write this song, and I already talked about it a little bit, but he will write music that is, I don't know, he always does it like on a piano or an acoustic guitar, and it's supposed to be this little sweet moment. Sorry, my accent just changed for no reason. It's supposed to be this little sweet moment where you can just see how inspired he is by her. And I swear I was going to throw up at this moment, because I really thought that they were going to do the whole, oh, like, you know, I really don't like the music the band makes. Like, I want to be my own person, make my own music, and stuff like that. And they kind of went there, but they kind of didn't. Like, they didn't put in words, but you can kind of feel that he's like that. And so he writes this music about her, and literally every time I hear it, I'm like focusing on the lyrics, and I'm like, this music is garbage. Like, I don't know who wrote the songs. I feel like the singing's pretty okay. It's good, it's okay. I feel like I only ever hear 2 band members actually sing this song, and not like the full thing, but that's another thing on its own. But the music's okay, the singing's okay, the actual track is okay, but the lyrics, they don't mean anything. Like, what are we doing here, y'all? Y'all've got to be joking. And I really need like Billie Eilish to do what she did with her little bops for Turning Red. I needed her to pop up into this movie and make some boy band music, because it wasn't it. Because, child, I was over it. I was like, this music it doesn't make me want to go listen to it again. And it's not because it's a movie. Like, literally, A Star Is Born, I listened to like half the album like 2 days ago. That music slaps. It eats. I just think it's amazing. Lady Gaga's vocals are beautiful on it. I only listen to Lady Gaga's songs on there. The only one with Bradley Cooper is Shallow. But anyways, songs are great. They hit different. And not only can they play on the radio, I've heard them play on the radio before. Like, they're good music that just sounds like so close to reality. That being said, this movie did not give that. It did not have the same vibes. It was like Kmart boy band, and you know, you roll with the punches. It was just a little bit off brand. Maybe I'm coming from like the teenage me, because I did not like you know, boy bands growing up. I wasn't a One Directioner. I wasn't into 5 SOS or DNCE. The closest I ever got to liking a boy band was literally Big Time Rush. I liked the show, and I liked some of the music. And did I go back to their tour like last year when they came back? Absolutely I did. Yeah. That being said, I wasn't a boy band girl. I wasn't like chasing all these boy bands. I was always more into female artists more than anything. And I could not tell you how more upset I was when Fifth Harmony broke up and released trash music. Like, that was my thing. That was me as a kid. And so this movie just wasn't giving in that way. There's this scene that I wanted to talk about. So Anne Hathaway, Solin, I was trying to remember her character's name. Solin takes Hayes to another art gallery, or more like her artist friend's like little spot, where she warehouse where she has a bunch of paintings and stuff like that and shows. And there's two paintings that they really just hold on to, as far as explaining it to him. So there's this first one. It's this big kind of calendar looking like a picture, and he's like, oh, this is interesting. Is that, what does it mean? She literally makes fun of him for a little bit for not knowing, and he's like, please help me, I can't think of anything. And so she says, in this painting, she calls it a self-portrait. She doesn't want people to know that she's this untouchable genius of an artist, but that her real schedule just looks like this. Like, pick up the kids from school, doing laundry on these days, like da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, literally, I'm just like you. Everybody I've seen talk about this movie did not like that painting. I thought it ate. I'm not gonna lie. I fell for it. I was like, okay, I see what they were doing here. Self-portrait, what it looks like day to day to be her, instead of just this genius. Because with artists, there's a lot of times where it's just like, people find a way, even with musical artists, people find a way to separate them away from their art and be like, this person's such a genius, like, I love them and they're everywhere, and they treat them like they're a god, like they're at god status. And it's literally like, yes, they can create amazing art, but also like they do have things to do in their day-to-day life. Like, their music doesn't just, it's not just something that pops in their head and they're immediately like ready to release it. Like, it's a process. They have to like write it down. They have to heavily edit it, heavily record it, heavily tweak it. Like, if you ever seen Beyonce talk about like how she creates her music, and even just like Homecoming, the movie, like, you see her go through the motions and really just nitpick everything to make the performance as perfect as possible. Like, it's not like Beyonce just appears and it happens. Like, she's working hardcore on her craft to give us perfection. And so I really liked that part. I think that painting specifically was for Hayes, because it allows people to see deeper beyond the surface, more than just their work speaks for them. And I think that's what he felt like. And then there's this other painting that was like, it was interesting to me. Like, it was this forest picture, and then it had like these painted lines and trees. And at first I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't understand it. I didn't see like what the point of the painting was, other than just vibes. For me, it kind of looked like, like how everybody talks about how if Disney characters were doing a certain type of thing, Alice in Wonderland would be on drugs. That's what that reminded me of. I was like, cool, it's a vibe. And Anne Hathaway's character is so drawn to it. She's so dramatic. And she's like, Hayes asks her, like, what do you feel when you look at it? And she goes, everything. And I'm just like, girl, if it's for you, it's for you, but it ain't for me. And at this point, I watched Nicholas, what? Backtrack. At this point, I watched Marshall Stannis's video on this, and he literally calls it like AI work, like straight out of the Willy Wonka experience. And I'm a little bit upset that he said that, because now that he said it, I can't unsee it. All I see is that fake Willy Wonka candy trees that they sold to all those people just for it to look like a meth lab. Like, straight out of Breaking Bad. Like, I don't know, but yeah, that was crazy to me. But I mean, like, another thing, this movie just has so many moments where they're like, they connect with the characters, but like, they don't necessarily connect well with us. There's a part in here where, backtracking back to that part where I was talking about how it gives us stuff that later never pop up. So when the whole big thing comes out and they decide that they're still gonna date each other, they assemble Izzy and her friends, and they have this big conversation. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna be a lot. You're gonna get a lot of comments from people, and you have to push through it. And all the kids are like, okay, we're gonna delete our social media so that nobody can touch us, right? And then I was like, okay, like, they're ready for this. Like, they're gonna play the game, and they're gonna, fight the power. That being said, I feel like what Izzy was going through at school, it was a lot, but also I felt like I thought more would have happened to her in order to make her like want her mom to stop. Like, literally, like, people are going at school and they're telling her, like, oh, like, can your mom send me naked pictures of Hayes? Or, like, her high school crush is like, well, her daughter's in high school. Her crush is like, hey, tell your mom I turn 18 in a month. And she realizes he wasn't talking to her because he liked her. He's talking to her because he's trying to get with her mom. And so that is a lot. But at the same time, like, people are worse. Like, literally in real life, people will send death threats online for the smallest things. And so I thought she would have been getting, like, heavy, like, death threat, or maybe like a stalker was following them or something that would have stopped her. But again, the movie just didn't go that far, and so she is fed up with it and wants to be kind of separated for a minute. So she decides to spend that night at her dad's house instead of her mom's house. And seeing this, Anne Hathaway's character Solon, I keep forgetting, she's like, notices how far apart her and her daughter are drifting away from all that. But there's this scene towards the beginning of the day when the dad comes to pick her up, and he's literally talking to Hayes. He's like, what are you doing with my wife? And I'm just like, you're not married to her. Like, you cheated on her and then have the nerve to call her your wife still. Like, what are we doing? Especially after Celine was like, I'm gonna forget that we did this and we can move on. And he said, I don't want to move on. Like, we are not married. Okay, you only exist to me at the thought of my daughter because you're her father. Like, get that through your brain. And at this point, literally, like, he has this moment where he's shady to Hayes. Hayes leaves the room, and we see him drink coffee, and like Hayes drink coffee, and Izzy's, putting her shoes on, getting ready for school. They look fine. And then cut to, like, after the conversation between Daniel, the ex, and Celine, Izzy rushes in, and she's like dry. She's distant from her mom. Like, she's very much like, hi, bye, going to school. You could tell there's something wrong with her. And I'm thinking, like, what happened in the kitchen? Because they were literally just chilling in the kitchen, hanging out. She comes out in distress, and then Hayes comes out and is like, hey, I have to leave for a few days. Ollie is in trouble, and I have to go, or, there's some health concern or something, and I have to go visit him. I'm like, okay, that's got to be a lie. Like, something happened in that kitchen that may have, like, messed everybody up. It's never brought up. Like, we don't know what happened to Ollie or what, but whatever. We don't know what exactly made her switch. Maybe it was because her parents were arguing again, but I think she's used to that. Like, I just did not understand it all, and I didn't, because it was so, like, it was literally like a quick change where she just was like chilling to being like annoying and rude, like annoyed and rude. I was just like, what is going on? Like, why did you make that? Okay, whatever. And the movie flopped hardcore for that. Like, I don't even know what to say. Okay, and so the last thing I wanted to talk about is so at this point of the movie, right? Well, at the end, this movie was a good watch. I easily watched it twice. However, it did this weird thing where I want to say like Act 1 was like an hour and 45 minutes, and then the last act was like 30 minutes. Like, it's almost a two hour show, 2 hour movie. Um, I'm sorry, that math did not add up. So Act 1 was like an hour and 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then Act 2 was like hour and 50, or was 15 minutes. And so literally the first 145 was literally, it was such an easy watch. Like, I paused the movie and I thought I was halfway through, and I was like, oh, there's only like a few minutes left, cool. The second, the last 15 minutes is like, everything was so smooth and so well, and like, you get to know the characters, it's into their detail and all those things. It takes its time in those 1 hour and 40 minutes. The last 15 or so minutes, it's like the movie just like, it gives you like 5 years worth of stuff in like 15 minutes, and it just is like, it feels really slow. Like, the pacing is slow in the movie, but the information is also a lot. So you don't really get to see these people like process anything. Like, everything's literally like she breaks up with him, I think in 1:30, and then I want to say like at 1:50 she breaks up with him again. So literally we're getting 2 breakups in like this short amount of time. And not only did the characters the characters didn't seem like they processed it enough, but I know the audience for sure, like me, the audience, did not realize, like, we didn't get time to process that at all. Like, we literally just saw y'all break up. We don't even get to feel like how devastated you each are, because y'all are already getting back together again and then breaking up again. Child, I could not. I was like, why did they need, and they broke up for the exact same reasons, bro. Like, the first time, it's because she finds out that, she feels like he's like Daniel, because he did this thing the band does where they act like they're changing the set list, and they dedicate a song to someone. It's always the same song, and she finds out that he did that for her. And then she breaks up with him because she's like, you know what, Daniel was doing a lot too, and I couldn't really trust him after a while, and this is making me feel like that. Fine, justified. But then later on, after, like I said, when he said Ollie was sick and he's gonna go visit him, she picks him up from the airport, literally calls off his driver to pick him up from the airport, and she breaks up with him because she sees how Izzy is distant from her. And I'm like, literally, like, she didn't even give him a ride home. Like, she literally picked him up, sat in his car, gave him his watch, broke up with him, and then he literally had to like go find a ride home, call back his driver or something. Like, oh my gosh, you couldn't even take him to like to his destination or something. Like, anyways, like, that was crazy. Like, oh man, he did not deserve that. Especially since like the breakup isn't like, oh, you did this thing and I'm gonna break up with you for that. It was like, we're just hurting people around us. Okay, understood. But yeah, literally, like, one thing I will say is his character is mature about these breakups for the most part. Like, typically with these storylines where it's like an older woman and a younger guy, you definitely get that he's in his 20s and he's being annoying about it, and you're kind of glad that they're broken up. But in this one, he really was kind of mature about it. Like, the first time they broke up, he was like, he was like mature about it. And, of course he didn't want it. Of course he was like, okay, like, I'm sorry, like, but let me explain. Let me say why I did that bit that we usually do and choosing that song, and I feel differently about you. not everybody's like your ex. Like, for her, that was trauma. And he was like, I understand you have trauma, but we're not all the same guy. So it's like, but after that, he really sees it. He's like, you know what? Like, you can sleep in the bed tonight. I'm going to find somewhere else to sleep. And then, I'll make arrangements to send you back home. Like, he literally just handles it so well. I'm like, okay. Second breakup. I would have literally been angry because that plane ride, he said it, that plane ride was not it. And now you didn't even take me to, like, a destination. You just leaving me high and dry at the airport. Okay. But literally, like, he makes an excellent point. Like, whenever it gets a little bit hard, she just leaves right there and then. He offers to leave the band, like I said earlier, but it's kind of like, she's like, no, it's going to get worse. The daughter isn't happy. And, taking into consideration your daughter is a good thing. I applaud for her, but also at the same time, I feel like she puts everybody's happiness above her own. And so it's literally like, when will you ever be happy? Like, that was the whole beginning of the movie, was she was going to go camping to find her own happiness for a moment, because the last 20 years of her life have been with Daniel on this up and down roller coaster, and like, focusing on other people before herself. So this was like her moment to be like, I'm gonna focus on my happiness. And her daughter's not getting, like I said, she's not getting like death threats or anything. It's hard, but they could have found a way, or just helped her a little bit more, so that when it came to like the actual problem in this relationship, they could have worked harder at it. And so he's like, you're not gonna fight for us, which I applaud him for, because I'm like, there's not really a point where she fights for that relationship, because no matter what, throughout this whole movie, like, she puts everybody else's happiness before her own, and she's never happy. So he's right, she doesn't fight for their relationship, she doesn't fight for her own happiness ever in this movie. Even later on in the night, he comes to see her and just talk more about just how they were. And he misses her. He says, I love you. And like, where do we go from here? Like, neither one of them want it to end. But he says, in 5 years, I'll be a D-list celebrity that nobody cares about. Izzy will be off to college, so, like, it's not a problem anymore. Like, she'll be living her own life and won't have to, deal with paparazzi and all these things again. College people will be more to themselves. So it's like, he literally is like, in 5 years, we can do it again. We can start dating again. And she's like, no, that's too long. Like, if you find somebody, go for that. And if I do, I will go for that as well. Like, it's literally not a moment in this movie did she ever fight for them or their relationship. Like, truly, if she found somebody to date, I'm not going to be mad at her for getting with them within that 5-year span. But I'm just saying, like, at that point, it's like, when did you ever, like, do anything in the relationship, like, fight for any part of this relationship? Like, everything just fell into your hands, and, like, when it didn't go your way, you just left. Like, the character development was not there. It wasn't there on either ends. And, they left us high and dry again. They gave me so many more things that I wanted. That's what Amazon does. They give you, like, this one premise of the movie, and they're like, okay, like, this is gonna be really good, and they give you excited for it. And then throughout the movie, they give you, like, all these, like, new ideas and hopes for the movie, and just being happy for what it's gonna be, and they never deliver, not a single time. Babes, it's getting old, it's getting tired, and I'm drained, babes. But yeah, 5 years later, she sees him perform. He does like this little artsy, like more down to earth, I guess, song. He's grown out some facial hair so to show that he looks older and all that. And to be fair, he does look older. I don't know what they do with Anne Hathaway, but she looks younger. These 5 years pass. I don't know. I guess they're trying to meet a common ground where they both look like they're somewhat in the similar age gap, but they're not. And he performs the song on the Graham Newton show, callback from later or earlier on. And he says, like, yeah, well, I'm going to LA because I'm going on a break to LA because I really, there's somebody there that I want to see. And you could tell Anne Hathaway is thinking it's somebody else. Girl, could you be more dull? Like, I guess guard your heart, but girl, it is obvious it's gonna be you. Like, what are we doing here? And so she goes to work the next day. She hears this customer come in and is talking to one of her sales reps, and guess who it is? It's him. And the movie ends with them smiling. I think I would have liked to see an embrace at the end, but you know what? I'm good with the last shot being on Anne Hathaway smiling. It was good. But let's be for real. Like, let's be for real. Amazon, you know what? This moment I'm gonna deem the Nicki moment right after she did her little diss on Megan Thee Stallion, where, you know, she paused all that music and she was just talking. That's what this is to Amazon. Like, Amazon, we have beef. Like, I'm gonna need y'all to do better than this. I'm gonna need y'all to not only give me these movies, but drop some realness into it, drop some flavor into it, cause it's getting real tired of y'all, you know, just doing all these things but not delivering. I'm gonna need y'all to deliver for real this time, like, for real. Like, Saltburn and One in It, this one, same thing. Like, I swear, like, y'all can literally rewind the last 15 minutes of your movie and everything just falls downhill from there. Like, y'all need to get better with these endings, Amazon, because if you need somebody to write out the endings, hit me up, Amazon, because I'll work for you. Like, I'll write a script for free. Like, the first one you get for free, like a free trial, because it's not in Amazon, and I got ideas. Okay, like, we got ideas. Like, please listen on your behalf. As far as Nicholas goes, you know, y'all need to release the chokehold you have on him, because he's been mostly doing nothing but Prime movies, and I think his talents are wasted. I truly think his talents are wasted. And Hathaway, you know, maybe she's at the point of her career where she could literally do anything, and it won't really affect her that much. It's just a check, and, you know, she acted great in this. Like, one thing to say about Anne Hathaway, like, no matter how bad the project is, she's still gonna deliver. But, you know, I don't know how y'all managed to book Anne Hathaway, but y'all did, and y'all took it for granted. And I saw that y'all also are making the Legally Blonde series with Reese Witherspoon, and I'm gonna need y'all to step up and deliver on that one, because I cannot be doing this again where we're going through the same thing and y'all just can't figure it out. Like, I'm gonna need y'all to figure it out, because I swear, Amazon, it's on site. If I see another one of these little ends, it's on site. We got a beef now, and y'all gotta repair this, because it ain't gonna be me. It's gonna be y'all. Y'all gotta repair this. Alright? But yeah. But that was my little Amazon rant again. Alright, but thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mia's Slumber Party. Hopefully next time I watched a movie. It's not disappointing like this one. Again, I liked it, but Amazon, we already talked. But yeah, thank you again. Consider liking and subscribing and leaving a comment if you're on YouTube. And we'll see you next time. Bye.